So what's up guys, this is Brett from FBA Excel. Welcome to this workshop training on the Apex PPC platform. In this video, I'm going to be going over my standard operating procedures for if I open up Google Keep here, you can see I've got them listed both for my daily optimization. You can see kind of the 5 steps that I follow there, and then we're going to go into the actual bi-weekly or monthly optimization process of looking at the search term inspector tool, grabbing new converting search terms, putting them in new campaigns, and then some of the tweaks that I make around some of the dashboards and reports that I'm looking at. And all of this is done using the Apex PPC platform. It is an all-in-one solution, so it can pretty much do everything from bid optimization to creating new keywords in bulk. There's a bulk campaign builder here that we're going to use in conjunction with the Apex PPC platform, so they kind of go hand in hand. But there's multiple different tools. This menu here kind of covers everything, and I'm going to step my way through my kind of 2 SOPs. So if you're a VA using this platform, or you're the seller yourself and trying to just kind of take your PPC up to the next level, this can be a great tool for you. It's going to be really affordable for you, and it'll just really put you in a good direction. So what I've got already imported is my bulk sheet file. If you've watched some previous videos, it's basically a 4-step process. You've got the get bulk file that just goes to the Amazon ad console, and you can download your bulk sheets. I do a 30-day range. I don't negate the past 2 days. I just leave it as is. So you're going to download that file, put it in, save it to your Google Drive account, and then when you go to import the file, it's just going to be import, and then you'll grab the file from your folder and then import new sheet. It's going to pop up down here in the bar, and then it's literally just click this button and it's going to drop you into your formatted bulk sheet, which is going to look like this. So right now I've just done step 1 and imported it. And right now with the bulk file generated, if you don't have any plans to change any inputs on your SKU dashboard, which is actually the one I use, you also got the ability to put in inputs at the ad group level here if you want. You can see I don't have them filled in, so it's kind of an option. You can choose one or the other. One thing I do at this stage before I actually do the bid optimizations is I will copy this data here. So I'll just go down to the bottom. You can see some of these are FBM that don't have ads, but I'll just hit Control C, and I'm going to go over here and hit Control Shift V, and that's going to paste my values, and then I'm just going to plug in the date here. So it's say it's the 14th. And I'm going to do this each time just to kind of see a trend in my ACoS, and you can always make tweaks here to the inputs. I'm not going to go over each of these inputs. I have another videos that cover that, but you can also read about them in the headers there. The tweaks I'm going to make are either here in these inputs, or usually what happens is I will pick out 2 to 3 keywords per SKU, and I'll put them on this bid override list, and these are going to be your higher bids that you're focusing on top of search, and these are going to be where a lot of your spend is going to be devoted. And if you're not converting very well, or you have a high ACoS here, this is going to be where I'm doing the same thing. I'm tracking on a daily basis my ACoS, so I would literally do the same thing. Just copy these. I'm going to paste them over here. Control Shift V, that does the values. 714. And you can see I kind of got downward trends going on. So if I see that, I'm not doing anything. But if I see one maybe like skyrocketing, then I may end up having to reduce this bid if I'm not okay with my, my daily ACoS going up. Now, if it's kind of plateauing and going up and down a little bit, I'll just leave it be, because you do want to let things run for a couple weeks, especially if you've got a smaller account. You're going to have to let it run a little bit longer to get some good data. But at any rate, this is kind of the idea. You're looking at this bid override table just for anything jumping out at you, high conversion rates, low conversion rates. You can make intermittent tweaks here to kind of try to help drive things, but for the most part, it's a pretty quick step here for me. So if I'm going back to my daily optimization, I'm making minor tweaks to the dashboard inputs and the bid override if needed, and then literally all I'm doing is going over to my bulk file here. And the optimization algorithm that I've been using is the waterfall method. You got 2 other ones here I've got some videos on. You can learn more about those. The waterfall bid method I like because it's conservative and it just performs well for me. So I just click that button, get a little prompt there, hit yes, and you'll see that my bids are recalculated, and I'm going to get a prompt here that says I'm basically good to go. So I can upload my bids back to Amazon using their bulk ops platform, and it's going to be a simple one-click save to your Google Drive folder with that new formatted file, and then you can just upload it right to Amazon, and then you're good to go. All right, so there's the prompt. You do have a few things you can do here. You can click a button to see the bid changes. Not everything potentially would have changed bids, so there's quite a few filters here. If we go up to Apex, bulk filters, so you can review bid changes. That's what I was pertaining to. If we hide this, you can see there's a few columns over here. There's our optimized bid. There's our current cost per click with anything with a conversion. Original bid, that's the bid that was imported before you did the optimization. So you can kind of see a preview of what your bid's going to be based on the current cost per click and original bid for anything with conversions. You have obviously quite a few other filters here. I'll talk about this dupe checker, poor performers, and some of these others, but you have the opportunity here before you actually upload your file if you want to do any sorting or just kind of looking into any specific targets in more detail. But then it's literally just a single click, create upload file. That's going to actually save the file to your Google Drive account, and then you go back to the ad console and just click two buttons and the file is uploaded and your bids are changed. So now let's take it a step further and show you what I do on a bi-weekly basis. If I open this back up, we're going to talk about a few new tools here that I haven't really gone into a whole lot of detail on in other videos. The first one's called the Stoptomizer tool. So the Stoptomizer, if we go over to our settings page, we've got a few limits here we've set based on our click-through rate, spend, and clicks. So essentially what's going to happen is in our search term inspector report, which is basically a revamped version of your ads search term report. And the way you download that, go here, and you're going to download your summary version of your search term report over I like to do a 30-day range when I'm doing this bi-weekly, but first time you do it, you could do 60 days is I think the max they let you go. But then you're just going to import that file that gets saved to your Google Drive folder. You're going to import it same way we did the bulk sheet, and then click this initialize step. And then once it's done, you're going to have a formatted search term report like you see here. And that Stoptomizer is important because it's going to give you a quick way to see in research campaigns, especially any search terms that are getting triggered and just aren't performing well at all. So you are going to want to try to keep a hold on those bleeders, and this is just a really quick way to negate those. So all you got to do is go to your search term inspector, which is where we're at right now. We're going to go up and hit search term inspector, run Stoptomizer. All right, so after the Stoptomizer filter runs, what you're looking at here is basically any of the search terms that violated your Stoptomizer criteria. So they could be getting flagged for too many clicks without a conversion, too much spend, or poor click-through rate, and exceeding that impression threshold. So all you'll do in this step is literally just copy this block of data here, the search term, campaign name, and ad group name. And we're going to just hit Control-C and then go over to the bulk campaign builder. This is actually the campaign builder view. We need to go to the bulk negate tool, and you would just paste the values here. You can see I've got a lot of duplicates. That's because my demo data was just kind of bogus. You won't have any duplicates, so yours will look like this. And then what you'd want to do is sort this list so you have your ASINs all in one spot. And you can't negate product ASIN targeting ASINs. We have another way to pause those, which is along the same idea as this, and that's at the the target that you're actually pausing, not the search term. We're dealing with search terms right now. But any auto campaign, you would want to negate ASINs that are hitting your Stoptomizer thresholds, and you just do that by selecting negative targeting expression, and then you can just drag that down now. And then all these other ones I tend to just use for keywords, do negative exact. There's some instances when you would do negative phrase, but for the most part it'd be set up like that. Then it's as easy as going up and hitting add negates to bulk file, and this is going to build. You can see there it actually saves the negate history real quick. You hit OK, and it builds us a bulk file with all our negates in there. So that's ready to go. We do have a few other applications where we might negate some keywords. So I'll kind of save this in the background and bounce back over to here. Let's go back up to our SOP. So right now we've ran the Stoptomizer. I mentioned you can't negate the product ASIN, targeting ASIN. So I'll show you that real quick. If we go back over to the bulk file, there's a similar filter. If I go to bulk file filters and then hit poor performers, this is going to show us the targets that aren't performing and getting hit with the Stoptomizer thresholds. So this should end up being a short list. And from here, you're just going to want to look primarily at the ASINs that are going to show up. All you got to do here is any product ASIN, targeting ASINs that you definitely want to pause, and you got to kind of make that call just by looking at the metrics if it's over your allowance or not. But these are basically being filtered right now for what you have set on the settings tab there under the Stoptomizer. And what you can do if you have a really long list is option A is you can just type in paused and then drag it down here for all the ones you want to pause, or you can use the adjust in bulk feature here and just hit pause all, and that's going to pause your keyword status for those product targets. And the only time I don't do this usually is if it's a defensive campaign and I'm wanting to target my own ASINs, I'll leave those. Or if it's one that I just haven't given enough time for and I haven't spent a lot of money yet on it, but maybe I've hit the click threshold, I'll usually wait till my spend gets up above $10 or so before I try to make a call on that. So, all right, so the idea around the rest of the SOP is going to be about building out new campaigns or adding search terms to existing campaigns that are just going to help improve our ACoS, increase our sales, and all of this is going to be based on our search term data. So when we initialized our search term inspector, we essentially took our Amazon search term report and it looked at our bulk ads file. It checked to see, which campaigns are currently running, which campaigns have these certain search terms in the different match types, and it's given us some additional columns off to the right here that are super helpful. It's going to show us all of the search terms that are currently not in active broad campaigns, phrase campaigns, exact campaigns, or ASINs, either from mostly from an auto is where you're gonna be finding these new ASINs. But if they're not already currently in an ASIN targeting campaign, it's going to give us that filter as well. You see the Stoptomizer threshold filter, that was another helpful one that we already talked about. The negated column here, that's going to come into play if we're talking about search term migration or search term isolation, which is essentially if you have some research campaigns like broad, phrase, auto, and you want to migrate those from those research-based campaigns to like an exact campaign so you have full control over it, and then maybe negate from that research campaign, you can do that using the bulk negate tool. And I'll go over a quick example here in a minute for that. But the idea is you would negate it, move it to a new exact campaign maybe, and then the next time you would run the bulk ads file and then follow that up by the search term inspector, this column here, the negated column, will have that negated value in there, so you won't need to negate it the next time. So it's kind of a iterative based process, and every 2 weeks when you do this, you have some new words that come in, and you just hopefully keep finding new words. And you can decide if you want to do that negate strategy, or I actually tend not to do it, at least when I'm first starting out, and I tend to do pretty well. If I have some research campaigns that are kind of slowing down, I'll start to negate after that. But that's just my strategy. Then you got in column W here, you have the targeting field as well. So we're more focused on the search term field, which is over here in column C, but you do have the targeting column, which is the actual term you're bidding on. So that's the difference between that. And then the search term is what the customer's typing, and that's where we're going to find our new terms. But search term inspector makes it really, really easy to harvest new keywords. You've got the menu here. You just hover over the search term inspector icon, and then all I'm going to do is go down through these filters. I'm going to add whatever keywords it's showing me, and then I'm going to go through the ASIN filter here and get all the new ASINs. So I'm just going to go down through real quick, and then what I do is I take the new search terms and I make just a simple little like 3-column worksheet, and I build that completely out. And then I'll hop over and I'm actually going to build that out in the bulk campaign builder just as a new tab. And then I'm going to use that bulk campaign builder then to build all those campaigns kind of automatically in one bulk run. So That's what I'm going to do here, and you guys can just watch over the shoulder here real quick. So first filter is for new exact campaign, so I just click that button. It's going to automatically filter this top header here. You can see it selected the search terms, it selected not in exact, and then it selected total orders. And this total orders column is a little bit confusing. It's different than your per campaign and ad group order. What it's going to do, it's going to total up all your orders for a SKU that has the same match type and that is triggering the same search term. So again, we're more concerned with the search terms, and we want to know, I like to actually do a couple additional filters here off the default. I like to deselect 1 and 2 and just show anything over 3 or more orders. That's kind of my criteria. You can obviously go like 2 orders, you're going to have quite a few more probably. The other thing with your campaign setup, and I've got another video that goes over this, but you want to try to shy away from multiple SKU campaigns if you can, especially multiple SKU ad groups. That gets real tricky because you don't know which SKU is associated with that search term and an order. So the data is really not clear. So that's why it's best. This one here is probably a low bid auto is where I copied over this demo data, but that's about the only one I tend to put multiple SKUs in the same one. But you have to deselect this in this case because we make the campaigns out by SKU. You don't have to, but that's going to be the best practice for sure. So you'll notice in my data here, I've got a few duplicate campaign names and ad groups. You won't have that. You may have the same search term on multiple rows, but you definitely won't have this situation going on. This is just due to the bogus data I have in here. But at any rate, what you'll do in order to create the new campaigns in the worksheet, which I like to do first, is just copy these 2 columns, and I'll go over to the bulk campaign builder, and I tend to make a new sheet, and then I'll just drag it over here to the right, and I'll put it kind of right there in B2, and you can do paste values, and then I like to write above it that it's an exact. And then here, if you actually select this data and do Control-Shift-Alt-1, that's going to remove the duplicates and just give you can see there's for this SKU, I've got 2 new keywords that I moved to an exact, and for this one, I've got 1. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to go back, grab the broad phrase and ACoS, and then we'll go to the next step. So I'm going to do that really quick right now. All right, so I go back to the search term inspector, and I go to find terms, and we'll check the phrase now. All right, so now I will deselect 1 and 2, and then make sure multiple SKUs are not selected. And there's quite a few more here, so you can go up to the top, and then I'm just going to select these. Go back over to my bulk campaign builder, same deal. I'm going to put those right here, Control-Shift-V, and then if I hit Control-Shift-Alt-1, then I'm just going to write, that was phrase. All right, let's go grab the broad. Search term, find new terms, get the broad. All right, same deal. You can definitely get pretty fast at this if you just do it a couple times. And that's the broad. And then last step is just to get all our new ACoS. And I'll just write PAT. All right, so the next step is we have to decide how many keywords we want to assign for each of our new campaigns we're going to create. Or if we want to create or add them to existing campaigns, we need to decide which ones those would be, and we need to just kind of map that out here before we create all our campaigns in bulk. But I'm actually just going to add all these to new campaigns, and I'm going to do single keyword campaigns for my exact, and for phrase I'm going to do 20 keywords per campaign, and then I'm going to do the same thing, 20 keywords per broad, and then 20 ACoS per product ACoS targeting. So once you start using the bulk campaign builder, it actually keeps track of how many of each campaign you've ran, and the ad groups, the names and all that. So it's going to give you kind of a summary of each campaign ad group, and then how many you have in each one for all the match types. So it becomes pretty handy as you continue to use the bulk campaign builder. For this first kind of iteration, it's best to kind of just start and create new campaigns from this first one, and then going forward you can always add them to existing is the easiest way to do it. You always can add them to existing from the start. It's just you got to map that out at this stage as well if you want to go that route. So it's faster to just start from fresh. So what you'll do is, I just like to put a 1 kind of next to any new campaign. So if you have the same SKU I mentioned, and you're putting these multiple keywords in the same phrase, campaign for this one SKU, it'd just be one campaign there. You're essentially just looking for when the SKU changes from one to the other is when you'd put the 1. You could probably write a formula and just do this really fast, but I'm kind of lazy. Right. Broad, you got there. Okay, so the idea here too is you do this every couple weeks, and you probably wouldn't have as many as I have here to add, so it'd be even faster than it already is. But from this step, the next thing you want to do is kind of plan it out to where when you add campaigns to this bulk campaign builder, it's really straightforward. You're just going to add all the different match types you want, and then we've got to paste in essentially our SKU and keyword, but it's best to get it in a horizontal layout, because then you can just copy and paste really quick, and it just cuts down on the time it takes you. So in order to do that really fast, what you'll want to do is copy those cells there, and then go down to the bottom of your data, and then we're going to do copy, Control C, and then just go back up to the top, and you can put it in this cell here. Just do paste special and then transposed, and that's going to kick everything horizontal. And what we're looking for is essentially this layout right here, where we've got our SKU and then the keyword underneath it. But if we have multiple keywords under the SKU, we want it to go down vertical. So we've got to make some adjustments here, since our phrase broad and ACoS targeting, we've got multiple keywords. So you can see, like for example, this SKU 8, we want to put these 2 keywords underneath here. So the quickest way to do that is you just hold in Shift, copy both of them, and then you can do transpose again, and it'll just put them like that. And then we're essentially just trying to build out this kind of layout. So I'm going to pause it here, and once I get through all of them, I'll be right back. All right, so this is definitely the most tedious process of the entire operating procedure, but still it only took me like 5 minutes, so it wasn't that bad at all. What you're looking for is what I've got right now, and you can see I got the SKU kind of there in the second row, and then the keywords underneath it. There's my broad, and then my ACoS targeting. So that's the setup you want to make this really quick and efficient. So from here, what you can do is, I like to just make a duplicate copy of this worksheet, and then in the other worksheet, I'm going to open up the actual bulk campaign tool, and we're going to build out our campaigns here really quick. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so what you're going to do now, it's pretty easy and straightforward. We're just going to build out however many campaigns we've got here. So here we've got 3 exacts. So you're just going to go up to bulk campaign builder, click add new, click add exact, and you're going to say 3. You're going to hit OK. And we could either enter these now, or we could enter all of our other match types. I usually enter all our other match types first. So let's see how many we've got. Down there in the bottom right, we've got 9 phrase. Right. We've got 9 broad. And finally, we've got 16 new ACoS targeting campaigns. So All right, so once we've got that, we're just going to scroll back to the beginning here, and all we've got to do now is plug in our SKUs and then our keywords, and then we can make any adjustments if we want to on the campaign name, ad group name. The one thing I like to use is this suffix here, and I call each optimization cycle, like what I'm doing right now, I call that like a group. So if this is my first one, I'd call it group 1. So I just leave it like that with a G1. And for my single keyword exact campaigns, the quick keyboard shortcut for values is Control-Shift-V. And then you can see here too, I've got a drop down with all of my SKUs as well, but if you paste the actual value and it's the exact value, then you won't get an error. And then our single keywords just go here, horizontal. All right, now you see I'm getting this duplicate campaign because I've got the same SKU. And I've got the same campaign name there, so that's where this suffix comes into play, and you can see this _1, _2, that gives us a unique identifier with that group 1 in there as well. So after I get done pasting these in, I can just easily copy that and overwrite my campaign name, and that'll be unique. All right, so for the phrase, I'm going to go SKU. Make sure you just grab the SKU row. Paste the values, and then what's nice here about how we've laid this out is you can grab that, and I always do this keyboard shortcut. And an easy way to check too as you're building this out is you can see it's written right there, phrase, and then it turns to broad. That's where your data should end each time. All right, almost done. Just grab those. Okay, so once you've got that, you're ready to fix any errors you've got here with duplicate campaigns. If you want to have your own nomenclature for the campaign name, that's fine. I tend to actually overwrite my single keyword exact campaign ad group names with the keyword, and that's so I can pull in search volume and things like that later on down the road on some other tools. But I mentioned here this suffix. That's important to make sure if you do want single keyword campaigns that you have different campaign names and they're unique. Right now, this would actually put this keyword in this campaign as well, so we don't want that. So all we need to do is just copy this gray column here, and then we'll overwrite the campaign name, and you'll see that that turns green. So if we go back up here, we can now lock our campaign names, and that's just going to override any formulas. And then adding the campaigns to the bulk file, that's actually going to create a bulk file that we can then upload to Amazon, which I'll do here in a second. One thing I wanted to mention as well, though, you've got an option to put up to 50 keywords in each campaign, and then you've got up to 50 negates as well. If you want to add some negates at this stage too, you can pick which negate style you want, but I tend to not do that, at least right at first, unless you've got, if you're making branded campaigns or things like that, that's another story. But all right, and then when you're ready to actually create the campaigns, all you need to do is go up and hit add campaigns to bulk file, and it's just going to take that layout and format a bulk file that you can then upload to Campaign Manager, same way we did with the bid optimization file. All right, you'll get a prompt there. Your campaign file is almost ready. You can hit OK, and then so you have the campaign upload file, and then we have our negate file as well. To upload them, you can just come back here, and you got to click this build button on each one, the build negate file and then the build campaign file, and that just saves a formatted version in your Google Drive folder, and then you can go to Amazon and then upload them. Then those will create new campaigns and then negate any of those you added to the bulk negate tool. Now, to do a real quick example for migrating search terms and search term isolation, you want to negate the root campaign. So Usually when you would do that is if you'd go to the find search terms and then not already in exact, and these would be when you would typically want to negate the search term just from that research campaign. And then basically after you upload that negate file with those campaigns and search terms in there, in the future they won't be triggered, and you'll hopefully find new search terms and you can kind of keep that cycle rolling. That's one strategy. The other strategy is you don't negate anything really. Especially if you're getting good conversions from research campaigns, sometimes those are the most profitable. So my strategy is I actually don't negate, at least at first. And then if I start seeing that I'm not getting any new terms every 2 weeks, I'll start looking into that. But it's as simple as we did on the Stoptomizer tool. So my filters that I use, again, I'll just do 3 total orders or more. And then I'll make sure I don't have multiple SKU campaigns selected. And then make sure you're at the top. And what you'll want to do is grab from the search term column over to the ad group column. And what I do is, so the total orders here, you can see the same search terms getting fired off in multiple auto campaigns. In this case, that's what that dash means. But you can see I've got a bunch of auto campaigns set up for just this one SKU. This is, again, demo data, so I normally wouldn't have this many. I usually have one auto campaign with all 4 product targets split out, and then another auto campaign with all of them combined. So I have 5 per SKU, if that makes sense. My normal data wouldn't be showing it like this as well. There'd just be a few rows. But let's say multiple auto campaigns are firing off for the same search term. Then I would look over here and I would only negate the ones that aren't converting. That's what I do. So you can see here, I've got a bunch of them here that are from the same SKU and the same match type. And that's why over here you've got 3 in this column, then 1 in this column. So I would actually just negate the 0 ones. So I would be grabbing from there and then down to there, copying this, and then just going into the bulk negate tool here, and then you just paste the values like that, and then you can drag down and redo your filter if you want. But again, if it's an ASIN, you got to do the negative targeting expression. When I'm doing my search term migration, it's usually a negative exact in a research campaign. And as you negate terms using the bulk negate tool, the next time that you run through the search term inspector tool, this column over here that says negated, it'll have the negate type in there. So like here is negative exact. So if you ever want to just filter all of them out that you've already negated, you can easily do that. In the same process, you would obviously be creating a new exact campaign with the same term. So it's the same process of using that worksheet, essentially how we did it. It's just this extra step where you'd want to at the same time copy this data over into your bulk negate tool. And I just kind of run a master list all the way down and then bulk negate everything all at once. So you can go that approach. It is good in some strategies to do that, and you'll see a lot newer keywords that maybe you wouldn't have found before this way. Other thing that I would recommend, and this is something I do on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, is to just check some of the analytical reports in Apex. And there's really 2 different sections you can do that. The Insights tool here kind of gives you a really quick snapshot of all your critical KPIs, and it's got a nice little color coding scale here. You can double click on any of them. So like if maybe this one I'm selling just a bunch of them, I want to see where my exact conversions are coming from. You can double click on that unit, and then you're going to get like a separate worksheet down here. You can scroll over, go over to units and see which one's producing the most. You can see there I got like 92 sales from one. What you can do is, especially if they're in like multiple keyword campaigns, is you can copy these 2 cell columns here and then go over to your bid override table, and we can paste those in just like this. And then we can assign a higher bid, and I tend to use dynamic down only. You can use the different bid types, but that's primarily the only one I use. But you can effectively put in kind of a fixed bid here, and you're always going to stay top of search usually if you bid higher than your CPC by I don't know, I usually get like 20% or so. These are your terms that you're really wanting to stick top of search and try to rank for and just really pay close attention. So you can pull in your metrics just by going there, sync metrics. It's going to pull in the metrics for these terms over that date span that you did. So you can look at your CPC right here. So like 40 cents. So I would, maybe go like 60 cents, 20 cents higher. And then you can start tracking those on a weekly basis. And all that's going to do is just override these bids and not have bid algorithms be affecting them. So that's one thing I'll do. I'll look at this insights report and just see if anything's jumping out at me. I usually like to look at my conversion rate report, especially if I've got some terms that are really converting well, like 50%, 33%. I'll dive into those a little deeper. And then the other analytical report that I've recently added, and it's been really helpful, is this kind of keyword planner. So especially if you have a huge account, it can be difficult at a high level to kind of get an understanding of how many match types you got for each SKU, how many targets, and so on and so forth. So you've got kind of two little summary tables here. This first one just shows more at a higher level, how many ad groups are in each one, how many targets are in those ad groups. It's got your metrics there as well. And then you've got a top performing search term list here, so you can get an idea of which search terms converting the best. And the way I use this is sometimes, for example, you may have an auto campaign structure set up for each SKU where you've got, like I do, like I mentioned earlier, split out the product targeting types. So like you got their complementary, loose match, close match, and substitutes. So I'll split all those out into their individual auto campaigns. You can make them real quick with the bulk campaign builder, and then I'll have another auto for that SKU that's got all four of them combined. And what I find sometimes, and let's see if some of this demo data shows that, you can click on any of these pluses and it's going to expand it. Like, over here you see a minus, now you see a minus there. You can see the images pop up. But what this is basically saying is for this search term, drying rack baby, this search term is firing off for both of these SKUs in these specific campaigns. So this is maybe an example of what I'm referring to. So you've got 5 different campaigns here. Let's pretend they're auto campaigns. You would know usually by looking at the campaign name, but my demo data doesn't really make it clear. But let's pretend this first one is my all 4 product targeting types together. And then these 4 split out are my substitute, complementary, loose match, close match. You can see, for example, well, all these have kind of 30 in it. So let's pretend this top one had like 50 and the others had 15 or something like that. Then that would tell me that maybe that all 4 auto campaign structure is just working better from kind of a macro level. And maybe that's a strategy I don't have implemented on all my SKUs. This is a quick way you can kind of dive a layer deeper, figure out if there's any trends going on similar to that, and then kind of develop your strategy a little further and maybe make those auto campaigns that way for your other SKUs. And that's just a way you can really quickly scale based on what's working and what the data is telling you. So obviously the other thing too is if you've got search terms that you're looking at here and you don't have them in other campaigns, I would kind of add that to my planner sheet as I'm every 2 weeks when I'm making my new campaigns, and I'll just add those as well. But that's pretty much it. I mean, it's not everything I do, but it's pretty close. The other thing too is obviously this bid override table, and I kind of look at this on a daily basis, but this is really where usually a lot of your spend will be impacted. So you kind of want to keep a close eye on how you're trending and then make some tweaks and adjustments to your override numbers. You can always cut it down below the CPC. That's what I think a lot of, especially new sellers at PPC, don't understand, is you definitely don't have to bid and get top of search for everything. You can get the bottom of page 1, top of page 2, and still do real well and make profitable sales. So it's more of a combination. You want to definitely rank for certain keywords and try to focus on certain keywords, but then also have a good mix of underbidding where you're not going after the top spots, and you'll make a good combination with a good ACoS. So that's been my strategy. May not work for everybody, but I think it's a good start. And hopefully you can see how this process and the operating procedure I just went through is very systematic and hopefully you can see how, if you would execute this across a couple months, how you're, I think, going to do nothing but improve your account. So, all right. And then this one other report that I'll look at every 4 or 5 days or so is this weekly metrics report. It's basically your past 7 days. And what I'm looking for here, it's going to give you all of your campaigns, and then you can toggle between different weekly metrics. So I like to look at orders first, and then I'll usually look at spend and just see if anything's jumping out at me. Like here, you can see it default sorts by your highest orders at the top. But these zeros here may indicate that I've either paused or done something to impact these campaigns. So you'd want to look into that if you have your highest performing campaigns just drop off all of a sudden. So this chart here is basically geared towards recognizing kind of gross trends at a glance. And then this one over here is actually your bid override report. So anything you put in your bid override table, you can tag different rows in the bid override table and kind of segregate this report if you want to see kind of the upper level metrics. But these are two things that I'll look at every week. I'll tend to pull these in and just look at them at a glance. But that's pretty much the gist of my SOPs. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything on this one. The campaign budget. Yeah, that's definitely the last kind of big step. And this is something I'll, again, pay attention to during my daily optimization as well. If I've got some campaigns especially performing really well, and I want to make sure I have my campaign budget set accordingly. So you can always go into Ad Manager and see which campaigns, especially towards the end of the day, are ending. And depending on your inventory levels, and if you want to keep scaling, you can bump your campaign budget up. And the quickest way to do that on these campaigns, there's a filter. If you go up and hit bulk filters and then override campaigns. So this, if I click here, it's just going to jump me back to my bulk file. It's going to refilter my bulk ops sheet for just those campaigns, and you'll get the entire block of data that is associated with those campaigns. And you need the campaign basically row for each of those that have those targets in them in order to reset your campaign budget. So you just want to make sure, it's high enough that you're not running out of budget, and especially, if you're doing really well on a certain target, you'll want to make sure that you've got enough budget allocated. But there you can see it filtered everything for just these targets, and you're just going to go through and change this value here. Sometimes this bulk sheet gets a little kind of runs together since there's really no formatting. If you follow the optimization and efficiency suggestions in my video for setting up your account, you can do things like this where you add headers, and it'll basically give you a header row that turns black for all the campaigns, so it makes it a little clearer to see what's going on. All right, so you can see each of these black rows is my campaign row. So here's my campaign budget that I would be changing, and you just want to bump that up accordingly. And as you upload then your next file to Amazon, that will change your campaign budget. So that, I think, is definitely the last step in my biweekly optimization. As you can see, those two different SOPs are fairly efficient. This first one here will take me probably 5 to 10 minutes each day just to make sure everything's looking good, and then upload a new file. I'll usually do it around 10 a.m. The biweekly optimization, that's going to take me a little longer. Usually I'll spend about an hour every 2 weeks creating new campaigns and looking at my reports and just making sure everything's moving on the up and up. If you do have something that's not quite looking right, then I've got some other kind of insight tools. You can look into that some more further, but I'm not going to cover that in this video. Hopefully, this video helps you guys out. And if you want to get started, if you're not already with Apex, you can get started for free. Just head over to FBAExcel.com. So I definitely think you'll find this system, as far as ROI is concerned, one of the best investments you can make in your FBA business. And as far as from just an efficiency and time saving standpoint, it's a true game changer. I know it's been for my business, and I know it will be for yours as well. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.